television. A lot of TV, so I just want to run through these things really quick. I feel so lucky that I can have so much TV in my life, which is always going on while I'm getting other things done. Like, it's so rare that I sit down and just watch TV. And, for a lot of people, I think they come home after a big, busy day and, they just want to be able to shut off their brain. And so it's like TV, something to relax, something to be passive with. And to me, TV feels like a very active, engaging experience because it's always going on while I'm doing something else. So stuff this week, I finally finished House of Cards Season 3. I enjoyed this season a lot more than the other first two seasons. I think, just all the characters in the season, all the conflicts, the stakes felt much higher. I mean, there's not a lot for me to say that I didn't say before. I guess we'll talk a little bit of spoilers. I thought it was interesting to leave this season where it did, no major character deaths or anything, just the thought that, they're about to go into this presidential race and this power couple marriage might be in trouble, which on the one hand feels a little bit soap opera-y because they've been established as such cutthroat characters so far, and you look at them and you think like, wow, I can't even imagine any existing, congressmen or senators having this kind of insanely driven marriage that's so dictated by a need for power. And so the fact that the things are getting more emotional now feels a little bit like drama for the sake of drama, but I'll buy it. I think it could lead to some really interesting places. Robin Wright, such an incredible actress, and alongside Kevin Spacey really manages to sell that relationship in an interesting way. So I look forward to seeing where all that goes. I think the show's kind of back on track. I think it was too easy for, I almost said Francis Dollarhide, for Frank Underwood to get where he has, and now that he's there, I'm glad there's some well-deserved conflict and trouble facing him. But again, great season. I'm going to give it 4 stars with a confidence of 3. Speaking of shows that end with marriages in trouble, Liz and I finished the season of Catastrophe, which I'm so sad to see is only 6 episodes. Not much more to say about this, just that it's a fantastically funny show. The ending, the fight that they have in there's a fight, sorry if you haven't seen the show, there's a fight in the end of the 6th episode that feels a little bit forced, not because it's an inorganic fight, like it's totally the kind of thing that, happens with couples and marriages, and there's some little things that bother you about the other person that kind of dwell just below the surface, and then they can all explode out in the wrong moment. But I realized that while this fight was going on in the show that we hadn't really seen them fight. Like, there's something kind of endearing and lovely over the course of the show of how brazen and totally speaking their mind they've been with each other, and it's a way where they can always still twist it into like you're so ridiculous kind of. It always felt like there was a lot of love between them, and so to have this fight kind of come at the end, I think it's totally fine. Again, it works, and everything they were saying about each other, you can totally believe those characters really do believe that about each other, but it did feel a little bit out of nowhere. Anyway, totally random about that show. I got really excited when I saw something in episode 5 was being filmed at Arnold Circus, which is in London, over on Brick Lane. It's actually like a little gazebo up on a hill, and I did my studio project there when I was in my London studio in my really dumb architecture class. That was my least favorite architecture studio out of all the architecture classes I had in school, because I had a professor that basically decided that we must not know anything from our first, 3.5 years of architecture school. So that was kind of a shame. But anyway, still brought back some fond memories. That's all. Totally weird tangent. Catastrophe, I recommend it a lot. It's one of the funniest shows I've seen in a long time, and really rings true for relationships. 5 stars with a confidence of 4. Bojack Horseman is a show that didn't get particularly great reviews when it first came out. And there was a day when it first came out that I was like, I'll give this a shot. And so I watched like an episode and a half, and I mean, it was honestly a similar reaction to what I had for Bob's Burgers. Like, I was just like, this is not my show, not my style, whatever. Kind of wrote it off. I loved the cast, Will Arnett, Aaron Paul, Alison Brie, Patton Oswalt. Love all these guys, but nothing about the show particularly appealed to me. Felt it had kind of an Adult Swim vibe, and nothing against Adult Swim. They're just not the kind of shows that I tend to invest my time or energy in. fast forward, hearing all these incredible things about Bojack Horseman, you know, a year after it first came out, and then season 2 is coming out, so I was like, wow, okay, I should give this another shot. I'm now 4 or 5 episodes into the first season, and I'm enjoying it a lot. There's something much deeper to this show than I would have anticipated, you know, a show about anthropomorphic animals chatting and acting like humans. Characters that I would have thought of as pretty one-dimensional at the beginning actually have some really interesting dynamics going on. I don't want to say too much more until I get further in the show. All I want to say is I'm intrigued. I'm looking forward to finishing the rest of the season. Yeah, good stuff, and great performances by everyone. Cool animation. There's a lot of really wonderful jokes that are feel totally unique to the show, like it wouldn't work in Archer, it wouldn't work in Parks and Recreation, it works here. And yeah, maybe someday I'll give Bob's Burgers another chance. But anyway, Bojack Horseman, enjoying it very much so far. I'm going to give it 4 stars for now, with a confidence of 2. Mr. Robot is killing it every friggin' episode. I just love what this show is doing. This most recent one had a heist plot. And what was fascinating about this heist was, you know, you get kind of the badass techno hacker kind of stuff going on. And by the way, there was a great article this week talking about how important it was to everyone involved with the show to make the hacking right and to make it be stuff that could actually happen. And there's already been a few hacking things that go on in the show where you'll see, you know, on Reddit or if you check in the right places, people are like, yeah, that's how you do that. You install the rootkit and blah, 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 blah. I got all your passwords, whatever. So it's one of those shows where it's like, I hope people don't take the wrong things away from this, like, oh, is it really that easy? But anyway, what was cool about this heist was, yeah, you expect the technology side of it, but then there was like an emotional heist going on, which, you know, becomes this kind of like, how do you hack a human kind of thing. So, you know, there's like a guard, for example, this isn't really a spoiler, there's a guard that Elliot had to get past, and this guard is kind of a pushover, and they like really quickly, they look up like his Facebook profile, oh, he's got a bunch of cats, he's lonely, blah, 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 blah. And so then Elliot kind of channels, you know, the way his mom used to talk to him when she was drunk, that kind of thing, and just starts talking to this guy in this really cold, dead-eyed way about how he's nothing and no one will miss him when he dies. And it's this kind of totally stunning thing, like, and the great reacting acting from the guy playing the guard. You really felt for this guy, like he didn't do anything wrong. And yeah, it must have really hurt. And then something similar happens with someone else, like a guard, a supervisor comes to, you know, relieve that guard who is a different supervisor from who they were expecting, and then they're like, oh crap, what do we do? So, you know, they can't find any information about her because she doesn't have any technology profiles, you know, social profiles, that kind of thing. And so they just scramble and they're trying to think like, what's something universal? And they get her phone number and they just send a text that's from her husband that just says, I'm at the hospital, it's what we always feared. And there's something so powerful about like that simple sentence, like, you know, they don't know anything about her, but it totally freaks her out. And without knowing anything more, you feel the worry and the concern there. Anyway, yeah, the heist thing was really cool. Great to see Elliot and our kind of supervillain Russian speaking, no, he doesn't speak Russian, our supervillain guy of the season who's about Elliot's age and driven by power and punching himself and talking to himself in the mirror, American Psycho style, or Fight Club style, again. I'm just, yeah, I cannot say enough good things about the show. I'm enjoying it so much, and not just because they sent me a free pair of sunglasses. Mr. Robot, best show USA has ever done, 5 stars with the confidence of 4. Last but not least, Hannibal. Oh, man, God, this show. Oh. They fast-forwarded 3 years, and now we're right into the Red Dragon plot. I have such mixed feelings about this. On the one hand, it's beautiful. Richard Armitage, a fantastic Francis Dollarhide, doesn't take anything away from Ralph Fiennes' fantastic performance. I never saw Manhunter. You know, to have the new dynamic here between Will Graham and Hannibal, to have more development really makes it super powerful to see some of these scenes that anyone who's seen, you know, Red Dragon or I'm sure Manhunter are familiar with some of the scenes and lines and character moments here. Now that we have all of this backstory, it makes it different. Visually, there's some wonderful things. You know, we get Will Graham's wiping thing when he's putting himself in the mind of the killer, which, you know, was very evocative in the very first episode of the first season of things from Red Dragon, so it's fitting to finally have that happening now when he's investigating the Leeds house. The stuff with Hannibal, it's really cool, and I think the movies could have done this as well if the technology was around, but showing what it's like inside Hannibal's mind. Like, he's in a prison, but he's not. When he's speaking to someone, as far as he's concerned, he's in a beautiful dining room with soft music playing. You know, I love before we do the flash forward, it's showing Hannibal thinking about the time that he saw like this beautiful young soprano boy singing in a church, you know, like very small audience, but like he's there clearly loving this performance, and he's memorized it, and while he's being arrested, that's what he's focusing his energy on. And so the show does things like that amazingly. Here's my only concern, two concerns really. One is, suddenly I kind of feel like I know where everything's going because I know this story, and I want there to be more surprises, and right now I don't have that sense of like, oh, what's going to happen next? The other thing is that what I was most looking forward to as I started to see how great this show was becoming, to use an important word from this arc, is that I really wanted to see every beat of this relationship play out. And the fact that we fast forward 3 years, I mean, it feels in some ways a bit of a cop-out, because I want to see Will recover from, you know, dealing with the fact that Hannibal's now in jail. I want to see all the characters, you know, adjust to these situations. I want to see Hannibal adjusting to prison. And as I'm saying all these things, I'm realizing, like, you know what? Maybe Will had no adjustment period. Maybe he found his wife really quickly and, you know, is totally in a good place. But again, I want to see that courtship. I want to see that process. Hannibal, I guess maybe for him it's fine to flash forward a little bit, because for all I know, the very first day he goes to prison, this is how everything is for him. He's not in prison. He's in his dining room. Blah, 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 blah. Still, great show, beautiful. I wish it wasn't canceled, but 5 stars with a confidence of 5. Thanks, Hannibal. Cracked stuff was keeping me occupied quite a few nights this week. That was looking at the way that all movies look the same, which felt very reminiscent of a video I made for Slackatory called How to Make a Superhero Movie in 10 Easy Steps, and just going through some different tropes of all these different movies, like weird things that become way too ubiquitous, everything from like the snap zoom to the way that everything looks too overblown and CGI'd and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, if you check in the video section, I will definitely post that video when it comes out. But, you know, it's really fun to some of these observations that I tend to have. If I can point to one interesting thing about my brain, is I'm always drawing these weird connections between, you know, movies and TV shows and certain things that are always being used and recycled. Or like, oh, how weird is it that 3 movies that have these 4 beats in their plot line all came out this year, and it's like a really unique story or something like that. So it's kind of fun looking at the scripts that crack.com is doing and seeing other people that, you know, maybe their brain works a little bit like mine does, or seeing a different perspective on these kinds of things. So it was fun working on this particular script and seeing some parallels that I had picked up on, like, oh, why do so many superhero movies have big giant blue portals coming out of the sky? You know, and then starting to see some observations that might be more about like the cinematography that I wouldn't have picked up on. So anyway, that's a lot of fun. But yeah, occupying a lot of my time. Who cares? I'm getting paid. It's great. Fantastic. Thanks, Crack.